Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going over Gladiator 2. Now with this movie we're not necessarily going to go and pick at the plot of the movie per se, because literally this video could be the same for the first Gladiator movie. Okay, so the main idea for this is just to expose what the Colosseum was actually about. We're not going to go into every single detail about the Colosseum, but I do want to highlight some main points about it. Now, this movie, along with a lot of other movies that exist and are out there in the world, I feel like a lot of people can get desensitized to violence and to brutality. When we look at the Colosseum back in those days, during the Roman Empire age, okay, we have the Colosseum, which was super brutal and super violent. Like, if you just go look up what the Colosseum was about and the things that happened there and the things that took place, it was very brutal, very bloody, very violent, very gruesome. It was just honestly terrible, the things that happened in there. I do want to say that maybe the movies don't say this, but there were also Christians because of their faith, okay? And these Christians, they weren't being violent. It was just because of their faith. And now we know, according to the Bible, that Jesus did say that the world is going to hate you because it first hated me. And that believers will be persecuted, and to not be surprised by it because Christ was also persecuted himself. Now, these Christians, they were thrown into the Colosseum in these games to wild animals just because of their faith. Just because of their faith that they were practicing, they were thrown into wild animals. Now, the audience reacted the same, basically, I would say, to any event that was going on. Whether gladiators were fighting each other, gladiators were known to also be slaves or maybe prisoners of war, and they were put in the Colosseum for the people and the public's entertainment. Okay, there's a famous quote about the Colosseum during the Roman times. Now, the audience reacting to Christians getting thrown to wild animals, to gladiators killing each other, which were either coming from prisoners of war or slaves. They were thrown into these Colosseum games for the public spectacle. It's just crazy. Just the stuff that happened during these games is insane. Now, when you just go look it up, you'll find out how bloody it really was. And it's crazy to think that the audience was just cheering, like, yeah, you know how people cheer at sports games, right? This is what people were cheering like. I would imagine so. I mean, please tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but that people were cheering for these kinds of things. I mean, the movie is not far off from reality, to be honest with you. And the fact that people, just to think, like, you can see how bad and how humanity can really be. Like, just imagine someone cheering. Imagine that was your family member, okay? Whether they were a Christian or a gladiator or a slave, and you saw them in there, and you see people cheering. People are cheering, probably drinking, eating food, right? And they're just cheering like, yeah, like they're doing that as someone is getting mauled to death violently, brutally, so violently by a wild animal or by some other male or female, okay? Because there were also females in the Colosseum too. It wasn't just guys, it was women too that were put in there. And just as these people are brutally being murdered, whether by man or by beast, the audience is just cheering. Like, it's just crazy to think that, you know? And that's basically the main point that I wanted to highlight for this movie. So it's not necessarily the movie itself and its unique plot that it might have, but just expose the Colosseum and what it really was during the Roman times. It was crazy and insane. I mean, you have things that are similar now. I mean, maybe the closest thing you have to seeing blood in a sports game is probably UFC fighting, possibly. I mean, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong or if there's something even worse. But, I mean, that's probably the most brutal that you might see nowadays. But it was way worse during, like, a couple thousand years ago. It was really bad. And, yeah, I just wanted to expose that within this movie. And these movies, they desensitize people. They can desensitize us to violence, to the real actual brutality that happened to people during those times, and that there were people cheering for this kind of stuff. You know, it's just crazy to think that, you know, how we can be as humans, you know. It's just terrible. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out for this movie. So with this video, I just do want you guys to think about the violence that is being portrayed to kids, to families, whatever age you are. Movies that are so violent and they just produce this stuff. I mean, that's why they have ratings like rated R or rated X, and they're just so bad. I mean, they're usually rated that way because of either, you know, you got nudity, you got sexual stuff going on, you got violence, blood. These are real things too, but the fact that they're in movies, they let you know, so that way if you have kids, to be careful. Even with the ratings, even if you're, you know, the majority of the population might be adults, and then maybe they can watch rated R stuff, but that doesn't mean that we should watch them. Please be careful what you're watching, especially if you're a follower of Christ. We shouldn't be diving into these kinds of movies and that. They're just so brutal, they're so violent. And we know that there's actual violence in the world that's not just in movies, and what can be portrayed in movies is not necessarily far off from reality itself. We know that the Colosseum existed. We know that these brutal, violent games happened. But I did want to expose this and just talk about it that way, just to bring it to light, you know, because sometimes there's things that we don't really think about. We don't really think about certain movies and shows, how violent they are. And who knows, maybe it could be subliminal messages too, honestly. I mean, it could incite people to be violent. You had the same thing in video games too. God willing, we might do one on the GTA series. Not the series, but the new game that's supposed to be coming out that's still not released. And I used to play these games, and yeah, there is a lot of violence in there. It's just so violent. And yeah, they do have a rating on the game, but let's be honest, like, kids can play and kids can watch movies and play games that they're not supposed to be doing. I did, and I'm sure thousands, if not millions, of other kids are able to watch movies they shouldn't watch and play games they shouldn't play. I mean, I don't recommend even adults playing this stuff either, but I mean, the fact that you're able to do it freely and have the freedom to do so in a game, you know, I mean, it could incite people to do it and get these messages within their head and their subconscious. And maybe you want to do violent stuff in real life, or, you know, maybe you're getting mad and you have that experience with gaming or movies and so violent, like you get ideas of what you can do to a person in real life. That basically wraps up our video for today. Thank you guys so much. If you guys want to support this channel further, please subscribe and hit that like button. And also comment down below and let me know about any videos you guys want to see about certain movies or shows or video games that you guys want to see. Even Bible studies too, because we're also doing that on this channel as well. Let me know. Until then, you guys stay safe and God bless.